I am so glad and I'm so thankful for both of you for bringing this movie to us. First of all, I want to go ahead and ask, as far as in your research for RBG, is this when you first heard about Pauli Murray, or where in the process did you hear about her?
Absolutely. It was actually towards the end of making our film about RBG that we noticed that on the very first brief that Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote for the U.S. Supreme Court, she put Pauli Murray's name on the cover, listing Pauli as a co-author. We knew that Pauli Murray hadn't worked on that brief, so we were very fascinated. And it turns out RBG was just crediting Pauli Murray correctly with developing this idea that women's rights could be protected in the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, just like racial equality was protected.
You find out so many, decisions, and how our world has been shaped because of her, whether, through Thurgood Marshall, through RBG, with Rosa Parks, as well too. Talk a little bit about the impact that she had on some of these huge decisions that now, we get to enjoy today.
Yeah, well, Pauli Murray was a lawyer and an activist, and somebody was really ahead of the curve. So in 1940, Pauli was traveling down south and was pushed to the back of the bus to a broken seat and refused to go there, was arrested. 1940, that's 20 years before Rosa Parks. And then several years later, Pauli gathered a group of students at Howard University. Pauli at this point is a law student, and helped desegregate a cafe that was near the campus, an all-white cafe. Again, almost 2 decades before the sit-ins that we remember from the civil rights movements in the 1960s. Pauli's legal ideas about separate but equal really helped shape the Brown v. Board of Education decision that Thurgood Marshall argued and won. This was an idea that separate but equal is by definition wrong, that you can't be equal if you're separate, was something that Pauli developed as a senior thesis at Howard, much to the dismay of classmates and even professors who said, forget about it, it's never going to happen. And then 10 years later, there it is in the Brown v. Board of Education decision. So, and then Pauli was in the forefront of the women's movement, a co-founder of the National Organization for Women, and, then becomes one of the first female-identified Episcopal priests at the beginning of the Episcopal Church accepting women as priests, so on and on.
On and on. And something else too that we find out in the film is that she identifies as LGBTQ plus. Obviously a long journey, for the community, from the time that, she identified to now. But, I just want to give a shout out to Anne Pauline, because I think everybody looks out for somebody like that to identify in their life to help them. And just what this, I don't think we would have a Pauli Murray if we didn't have an Aunt Pauline.
That's absolutely right. Aunt Pauline, who raised Pauli Murray as her own, even though, as you say, was actually an aunt, I agree with you, 100% responsible. Pauli from early on had feelings of gender nonconformity that were completely unacceptable during the period of time when Pauli was a child, and could have felt so deeply pained and ostracized. But yet Pauli had an aunt that just spouted out love, and that gives somebody, that gives a child the confidence they need to burst forth into the world, which is exactly what Pauli Murray did.
Pauli called her my boy girl. I love
Pauline,
that. Yeah, Pauli.
Oh, exactly. And if Pauli Murray had been president, when Pauli wanted to, take things in charge, the world will be so much more different than it was. I do want to ask, as far as today, when you look at everything going on in the world now, how do you think Pauli would respond, and what do you think Pauli's role would be in everything?
Well, I think that Pauli would be gratified first that Pauli's own story is coming to light, and I think that would bring a sense of satisfaction to Pauli, because in writing the autobiography, the family history, Pauli knew what their place in history was, and to see people recognizing that, I'm sure would be gratifying. But I think beyond that, the recognition of LGBTQ people, the Supreme Court decision granting equality in employment, which is really based on the ideas that RBG and with Pauli's in the background there helped. I'm sure that would be extremely gratifying. And hey, to go to Yale and find that a college at Yale University has been named Pauli Murray College, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. I mean, this movie touched me. I think, so many of the people are going to get inspired, by Pauli's work and continue the struggle. In theater September 17th and Amazon Prime October 1st. Betsy and Julie, thank you so much for your time and cannot wait for everybody to see this film.
Thank you so much, Rudy.
Thanks,
Great to meet
Rudy.
you.